At some point, something shifts, and it's subtle at first. Not loud, not dramatic, not something you can easily explain to anyone else. But you feel it. You still think about them. You still feel the pull. You still remember what it felt like when everything between you felt undeniable. The way it started, the way it pulled you in, the way it felt like something you didn't choose, but something that chose you. And for a long time, that feeling was enough to keep you holding on, because it didn't feel like anything you had ever experienced before. But something is different now, because it's not just about missing them anymore. It's not just about wondering what they're doing, or if they're thinking about you, or if they'll come back. It's something deeper, something quieter, but more powerful. Something you can't quite explain, but you can feel it. This connection didn't feel normal. It wasn't casual. It wasn't surface level. It didn't follow logic. It didn't follow timing. It didn't follow any of the rules that usually make things make sense. It disrupted you. It pulled you out of yourself. It made you feel everything more intensely. It made you question things you had never questioned before. And even when it became confusing, even when it became painful, even when it became distant, it stayed. It stayed in your thoughts, in your body, in your energy. Even when they weren't there, it was. And part of you believed that meant something. That meant it wasn't over. That meant it wasn't finished. That meant eventually, somehow, it would come back together. That there was still something waiting to unfold. But lately, something has been changing, and it's not in them. It's in you. The way you feel it now is different. You're not gripping it the same way. You're not holding it the same way. You're not chasing the same answers. There's a space that didn't exist before. A pause, a quiet awareness that's starting to come through. And it's not comfortable, because it's asking you something you've been avoiding. What if this was never really about them? Not in the way you thought, not in the way you held on to, not in the way you built it in your mind. Because this connection didn't enter your life to complete you. It came to confront you, to bring you face to face with parts of yourself you were never meant to ignore. The parts that felt unworthy, the parts that felt abandoned, the parts that believed love had to be intense to be real, the patterns you didn't realize you were repeating, the emotional cycles you couldn't see until something triggered them, the way you attach, the way you hold on, the way you try to make something stay, even when it's not fully choosing you. It revealed your fears, not gently, not slowly, but all at once. Your fear of being left, your fear of not being enough, your fear of losing something that felt like it meant everything. And it didn't just show you those fears, it made you feel them, fully. And that's why it felt so powerful. That's why it felt so consuming. That's why it felt so hard to let go. Not because they were the one, but because they activated something in you that you could no longer run from. This is the part no one talks about, the part where it stops being about the connection and starts being about the mirror. Because the pain you felt, it wasn't random, it wasn't meaningless, it wasn't just something that happened to you. It was precise. It went exactly where it needed to go. It showed you exactly where you were still seeking validation outside of yourself, where you were still abandoning your own needs, where you were still choosing someone else over yourself, where you were still believing that love had to be earned, proved, fought for, held onto, even when it hurt. And once you start seeing that, something changes, because now you can't unsee it. You can't go back to the version of yourself that only saw the connection without seeing what it was doing to you. You can't pretend it's just about them anymore, because now you see yourself in it clearly. And that awareness is where everything begins to shift. This is where your power starts to come back. Not when they return, not when they finally reach out, not when they give you the closure you once thought you needed, but when you stop needing them to, when you stop waiting for something outside of you to give you something you're meant to find within yourself. When you stop asking, why did they do this? And start asking, what is this showing me? That's the moment everything changes, because you start turning inward, you start listening differently, you start feeling differently, you start choosing differently, you start seeing where you gave too much, where you stayed too long, where you ignored your own truth to hold on to something that felt powerful but wasn't stable. And instead of blaming or chasing or waiting, you start reclaiming your energy, your attention, your sense of self. You start realizing you were never meant to lose yourself in this. You were meant to find yourself through it, to see yourself more clearly than ever before, to understand your patterns, to break cycles that have been repeating longer than you even realized, to become aware. And once you become aware, you can't go back. You don't chase the same way. You don't attach the same way. You don't lose yourself the same way, because now you see. And when you see, you shift. Not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. In the way you carry yourself, in what you tolerate, in what you choose, in what you no longer need. And that shift changes everything. Because the truth is, this was never about them. Not in the way you thought. It was about what they awakened in you, what they exposed, what they reflected, what they brought to the surface. And once you understand that, you stop looking at them as the answer. You stop seeing them as the destination. You stop holding on to the idea that something outside of you is what completes you, because you realize you were never incomplete. You were just unconscious of what was within you. And this connection forced you to see it, to feel it, to face it, to move through it. And now, you're not the same. You can't be. Because something in you has opened, something in you has shifted, something in you has come back online. And from this place, you don't chase, you don't wait, you don't hold on the same way anymore. You choose, you see clearly, you move differently, you stand in something more grounded, more aware, more real. And everything that once felt confusing starts to make sense, because you finally understand this was never about them. It was always leading you back to yourself.